Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. We're here today with our Motivation and Mindset Monday, where, as usual, we are trying to start our week off right. So whatever day of the week that you may be listening to this show, it's really important to understand that every day counts. It truly does. That there are no off days that we can take from life. Yes, some days will absolutely be better than others, but our mind should really be fixated on growth. It should be fixated not on what we're doing incorrectly, what we didn't do well yesterday, but what we can do today. So every single Monday, I like to start with a Motivation and Mindset Monday tip. And what I want to give you today is really, if you haven't looked into or heard about how to actually break the habit loop, I want to share that with you today. It's one of my favorite things to teach because once you learn this, then you understand the psychology of why we have bad habits in the first place, but also how they can be replaced. Because so many of us believe that our mind and the way that we think and the way that we feel is so out of our control, but it's honestly not. And by the end of the show, you will truly understand that you can actually rewire the mind simply through doing certain actions, and that over time you will begin to see how that rewires the mind. So let's share that with you today. You'll start to see it kind of unfold in front of you. So the habit loop is really something to understand, and this is important because all of us have habits, meaning they're just routines. They're the habitual things that we go through on a daily basis. So, it's been popularized over the last couple of years by B.J. Fogg, who's a behavioral scientist, I believe out of Stanford, by James Clear, that wrote the book called Atomic Habits. So it's becoming more popular. It's definitely becoming more talked about. But, when therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors, other people that are trying to help others on a daily basis, allow them to break free of habits that they know that are self-destructive. And that's why the first tip is always self-awareness. First, you need to know that you have a habit that is not serving you. Now, you could also approach it from a different point of view as I want to create a habit that will serve me. And both are fine. Both we'll teach today. But we have to first become self-aware. Once we know that, we can begin to say, okay, this is the habit that I don't like myself for, or I don't like doing this thing, or it's not allowing me to move forward in life. And I want to share one of those habits with you today. One of them would be simply that, someone's really trying to, for their overall health, for their body, for being able to get better sleep, snacking before bed. So I'm going to share one of those tips for you today, how to rewire that, and then also to increase an exercise program. Really, any tip can be added into this. And this is really timely for me because inside of our Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, we have a program called Mastery, and we're teaching these specific things in depth. So we're going to go over it today. And of course, we teach these things in depth. But what I want to share with you is that the habit loop, this has been known now for many decades, has three specific parts to it. Once you know the three specific parts, you will begin to then become even more self-aware of what's happening and then begin to dissect and break this down to your advantage. So let's go through those three parts right now, called the habit loop. The first part is this, okay? The first part is everyone always has a trigger, also called a cue, for that habit. So that essentially means that there is a alarm that goes off inside of the mind to say, okay, this event just happened, or I just took this action, or I just had this thought, so now I'm going to now do X, which is the action that we think of as our habit, right? So the first step is called the trigger or the cue. It's simply, okay, when I wake up, I do this. Think about that. Think about what you do when you wake up. Some people, a bad habit would be, when I wake up, I have a cigarette. A lot of people do that, right? So when you smoke first thing upon waking, that is because it has been ingrained into you. Yes, it's an addiction, but addiction starts as a habit. Now, that habit could be replaced. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Other people say, okay, or I had a tough day. I get home from work, and the next thing that I do after a hard day, all I'm looking forward to is having that drink, that glass of wine, whatever it might be, to unwind. Again, over time, not exactly the best habit, since we know drinking larger amounts of alcohol could lead to cancer and other issues. So that's another habit that we think about. The one that I'll be talking about today too is once I finish up with dinner, whatever it might be, I sit on the couch and then I have a snack, right? So think about it that way. So first is the trigger. The trigger could be sitting on the couch. It could be getting home from a long, hard day of work, taking care of the kids all day. It could be going out with this particular friend. That's a cue. This particular friend, they're your drinking buddy. They're whatever. You go out with them. Okay, that's what you can do. You can have a drink together, right? That's the habit. That's what you do together. That's kind of the routine. And another one I gave you is a lot of people when they wake up, again, they might, maybe they have coffee on an empty stomach or they have a cigarette or whatever it might be. But again, we all have habits. We can have good habits too. But I'm talking about how to break some of these bad habits today. We want to create more of the good habits, but definitely break those bad habits. So the second part I already gave you. The first part's the trigger, the cue. It's what alerts you to do something. A lot of people with fingernail biting. This is a very popular is not the right word, but this is a very popular one for people that bite their nails. The cue is sometimes just a little hangnail, a little piece of skin, and then it gets them to biting all of their nails down to a very unhealthy level. Biting your nails is one of the unhealthiest things that you could do. Obviously, relatively speaking, but think about it this way. Biting your nails, underneath your nails has all of the bacteria that you collect during the day. We touch things, we can't really get under the nails to clean them that well without a scrub brush or anything like that. You're putting all of that bacteria back in your mouth. Also, it's very detrimental to the nails themselves. It weakens them by biting the nails down, and you're starting to expose some of the nerve endings below. So not a good thing to be doing. But a lot of people bite their nails, and they go to a psychologist, a psychotherapist, a therapist, whoever it might be, in order to help them break these specific things. But we're going to talk about how to do that using something called the golden rule with this of how to break these bad habits. So the first is the trigger. Could be the hangnail, could be just waking, could be the end of a hard day, could be sitting down on the couch, could be hanging out with a particular friend. But the trigger is your cue, okay? So it's your cue to then take an action. And the action would be, again, having the cigarette, having the coffee first thing in the morning. Again, I'm not saying this is bad, but what I'm saying is it's a habit, right? Coming home from work, immediately pouring yourself a drink, sitting on the couch, grabbing for a snack. These are all actions. These are all what we consider the habit, but it's actually not the habit. That's why it's difficult to break habits, because we don't know that there's three parts to habits. The action is what we think of as the habit, but actually it's just the middle part, right? So it's the intermediary point between your end caps. So it's your routine. It's what you go through. It's your habit. Like, again, my habit is I wake up, immediately head over to the bathroom to brush my teeth. Like, it's the first thing I do, splash some water on my face, brush my teeth. I just start my day. That's a new habit I created. Instead of kind of dilly-dallying and taking my time, I just get into my day because I find my energy levels are much better when I just get into my day. So it's a habit that you can create, but it's one that I do. That's an immediate first thing, essentially, that I do. So we can all create our own habits, but now we have to understand that there's a third point to this. And the third point is the reward. So we do a particular action. We take a particular action, not just because there's a trigger or a cue, but because we're looking to get a specific reward from it. Now remember, the reward is almost always a feeling. So keep that in mind. The reward is not the thing that we're doing. Okay, it's very important. It's not the thing that we're doing, but it's actually the feeling that we get from it. It's why I always teach, again, on these Mindset and Motivation Mondays, to continue to ask your why. Why are you doing this? Why are you having the cigarette? Why are you having the drink at the end of the workday? Why are you biting your nails? And if you think about it, it all comes back to a lot of what we have spoken about on previous shows. There's something that you're looking to mitigate. It is a feeling, right? And you want the opposite of that. So, for example, when you bite your nails, you are oftentimes anxious, right? And by biting your nails, you are helping to calm your levels of anxiety. And you get that by biting your nails. And biting your nails simply gives you a sense of control. You are controlling the little hangnail that you have. You are removing that, and it gives you that better sense of control. You will find that a lot of these activities are actually based on overwhelm and anxiety and fear. I mean, we create these strange habits, and even smoking. Smoking, many people that smoke use it because of very high levels of anxiety. And that's the truth. Very high levels of anxiety, lower levels of neurotransmitters. And instead of fixing the GABA levels, the serotonin levels, the dopamine levels, people turn to cigarettes. And again, I understand it. It's a bad habit. It is an addiction. And it's one of the things that I like to share with people. And I'm not saying that you can overcome this overnight, but it can transform your health. And that's because cigarettes overnight, not going to do too much damage. Cigarettes over years and decades, a lot of damage, and leads you to all of the, not just, again, cardiovascular disease, higher levels of higher blood pressure, higher levels of cancer, like all of these things. But we have to understand it's also quality of life. Your quality of life is most likely not going to be as great. And so I really want the best for people. And it's one of those habits that I would love for people to get help with. And that's nothing wrong with admitting that smoking is an addiction, whether it be whatever it might be. It might not just be cigarettes. It might be vaping. It might be cannabis. It could be anything, but you simply smoking on a daily basis, inhaling smoke in your lungs can be quite damaging. So, but we want the reward, right? So think about it. What's the reward for sitting on the couch at night? So let's look at it like this. You had a hard day, right? Hard day. And maybe you have kids, you put the kids to bed, or you just finish up your laptop, you close the laptop up, you're like, all right, I'm going to go sit in the couch and watch a little bit of TV. I'm going to unwind. And nothing wrong with that. Again, I don't have any issues with that at all. Makes sense to me. Trying to relax, have some downtime, turn off the sympathetic nervous system, turn off that fight or flight, get more into the rest and relax the parasympathetic. Good. Okay, so you sit in the couch to watch TV. But then you're thinking, well, what could be more relaxing than sitting on the couch and watching some TV? Well, having a snack while sitting on the couch and watching some TV, that would be even more relaxing. So you grab for a snack. Next thing you know, you do that for a couple nights straight. It becomes a habit, right? Because your mind says, this is great. It leads to what? It leads to the feeling. Right? So watching TV is great. Watching TV and snacking, well, that's going to produce more of those inhibitory, relaxing neurotransmitters. And because you do that, you get more of a sense of unwinding, of relaxing and de-stressing. So again, it makes total sense. And your brain's like, well, we want more of this. Of course, we want to feel less anxiety. We want to feel less irritable. We want to unwind to a greater degree. But over time, what does it do? Well, it leads to blood sugar dysregulation, poor detox pathways, less deep sleep, poor endocrine function, which is the hormones, all because you are snacking before bed, less in IGF, so natural levels of growth hormone while you sleep. So all of these things matter over time. A week, no big deal. 2 weeks, probably not a big deal. It starts to catch up with you, though. This is what happens. So, but we can see that the reward is actually the relaxing, the unwinding, and the de-stressing at the end of a day. So that's the habit loop. You have to understand now there's 3 parts to it. We've got the cue and the trigger, right? That's the beginning. That's the first step. Something happens. In this case, someone sat on a couch. Good. Well, okay, that didn't mean a habit existed yet. But then what's the habit? Well, you sit on the couch and then you eat a snack, okay? So you're eating the snack. That is the action, that's the routine. We call it the habit. But the habit, again, is 3 parts. And then you don't know this. It's subconscious. You're doing it because you get a greater sense of unwinding and of relaxing and really decreasing a lot of, again, that anxiety from the day. So we have a 3-part habit loop, which if we look now at psychology and we say, how do we break these bad habits? They call it the golden rule of habit change. And it says that the most effective way, that the absolute best way to break a bad habit or to increase one, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but the best way to break a bad habit is to actually only change one part of this, okay? So if you think about it, what part would you guess? What part do we want to change? And they say, and I totally agree with this, it's the easiest thing to do because you don't want to make things difficult for the mind. So we only change the middle part, and that's the action. So we have the same trigger. Let's go back to our couch example. Someone's trying to lose 20 pounds. Someone's trying to get better sleep. Someone's trying to improve their blood sugar levels. Someone's trying to work on an anti-aging based protocol, work on their digestion. Can't snack before bed. Really, 2-3 hours minimum before going to bed. That's when you should stop eating. Absolute one of the best things that you can do. I mean, it increases what? Intermittent fasting length, all of that. And again, the best time to intermittent fast is from dinner on or even afternoon on. That's the most natural time. That's the best time, not necessarily always skipping breakfast when we're going to be more active. So again, when we're less active, well, we're going to do better with that fasting routine. Especially if you look at Ayurvedic medicine, we're moving after 6 o'clock to the kapha time of the day. And we know during that time, typically we don't want to be eating. So it's not the best time to be eating for the majority of people. Not every single person in the world, but for the majority of people. So what do? Okay, still not going to change the cue, which is you clean up after dinner, you finish up a little bit of work, or you put the kids to bed, whatever it might be. Okay, now you sit on the couch. You still get to do the thing that ultimately you wanted to do, which was, sit on the couch and relax, which is great. So you sit on the couch, and the next thing you have to do, though, is your mind automatically goes to, what do I have? Do I have chips? Do I have some popcorn? Do I have some chocolate? Like, what is it? Because your mind's going to go there. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. So here's the thing. You can't say, well, I'm not going to eat anything. I'm not going to do anything. That's hard for the mind and the nervous system. It's not just the mind. It's the nervous system is now wired. It's wired to have that snack. So what you're going to do is this. You're going to replace that portion so that your mind still gets the feeling of the relaxing, the unwinding, and the de-stressing. So the only way that we do that is that we still put something in our mouth. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to sit on the couch, but now instead of having the chips, which are typically, some type of hydrogenated fat, or you're having some type of chocolate, which is going to oftentimes have more sugar, all of those things in it, what we're going to do is we're going to make an herbal tea. Now, in the beginning, your mind's going to be like, well, this isn't the same as chocolate. This isn't the same as popcorn. And yes, it's not, but you're still getting that sensory input of making a cup of warm peppermint tea, or chamomile tea, or hibiscus tea, any one of those helping with digestion, helping to improve sleep, and going to be much better for your body. So is it the same in the beginning? No, but you're still sipping on something that you would find enjoyable. So make it a tea that you would find enjoyable, plus it's probably matching up with more of your goals. If you're listening to this podcast, you're most likely trying to improve your overall health, anti-aging, wellness, weight loss, anything like that. So this is moving you towards a goal. So you can say, yeah, it's not the popcorn, but also the popcorn's not leading me towards my goal. This is what's going to help me get that improved hormone levels, the improved digestion. Certainly popcorn kernels in your gut are not going to help with that. So now you sit on the couch, and after, again, about 3 days or 4 days or so, keep the snacks out of your house. If not, it's too tempting. And what you do is, okay, you make that cup. You put on that tea water. You get yourself a nice tea. You sit down with that, and you enjoy that cup of tea over a half hour or an hour sitting on your couch. And that's not breaking your fast, right? You're just sipping on it, and you're aiding in your digestion as well. You can do some fennel tea. I mean, you can choose whatever one you'd like, really. Maybe get a dozen different types, and you can just do a different one each night for whatever you're in the mood for. So a really nice one to be able to replace that. But what did we do? We only changed that middle portion. We didn't change the cue, and we didn't change the feeling, which is the reward. So it's a great way to look at it, right? So instead of waking up every morning and, let's say, insert any bad habit that you want. I don't want to get into breaking an addiction with cigarette smoking right now, but instead of waking up first thing in the morning and having that cup of black coffee, it could be starting with a smoothie. You can still have your coffee afterwards, but you could replace that instead. So I want you to think right now of any habit that you have and try to be enough, or just, you can even just journal, because maybe you're not self-aware yet of why you're doing the thing. But if you can always say, oh, before I do this bad habit, such as come home, have that glass of wine, whatever it is, this precedes it, feelings of stress, feelings of anxiety, whatever it might be, because maybe a quick 10-minute workout when you get home helps to relieve that stress. So again, think about what the cue is, okay? The cue is the thing that you need to figure out, and I know that you already know your habit. So think about the cue, right? The habit is the thing that you want to change or you want to add in. So figure out what the cue is, and the reward is almost always, not always, but almost always to break a feeling of stress, anxiety, lower mood, frustration. It's a thing that we do in order to feel a little bit better, even if it is not a good habit like smoking or drinking on a nightly basis. So that is the absolute best thing to do, is figure out your cue. Okay, we already know the habit for the most part. We're going to figure out the reward, but also then we're going to rewire that in. So just a quick tip here, because I know that I'm up on my time for today. It's definitely not going to be the last time I ever talk about creating habits, because there's so much more to talk about. We can talk about stacking habits. We can talk about temptation bundling, all these great things that we teach. But here's the thing. Whenever you want to create a new habit now, don't think about just doing the thing. Because now you know better. You know that there's so much more to this. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to work out every day. No. You want to create all three parts to that. What do you want to do? You need to create a trigger. You need to create a cue so that it almost becomes automatic. Then you know you want the feeling. The feeling is going to be feeling great about yourself, doing something that you can be proud of, de-stressing, reducing anxiety, whatever it might be. So what you're going to say is, okay, well, you know what? I'm starting a new health-based program. I'm starting a new gut-based protocol. I'm using these nutritional supplements. You might be using something like a greens powder, daily fruit and vegetable blend. You might be doing lemon water in the morning. You might be doing some apple cider vinegar. Whatever you're doing, you could say, well, upon waking, I'm going to put this right beside my bed. It might be a glass of water. It might be your supplements right there. So there it is. You wake up, your feet hit the ground. There it is. I mean, that's like a really simple one, but we do that one all the time with actually exercise. So if someone's more of the kapha body type, endomorph body type, we just know that we need to get that body moving. And they're also slow to start the day. No adrenal-based issues, but slow to start the day. I'll oftentimes tell people, listen, put a chair literally at the end of your bed, okay? As long as you're not someone who gets up during the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, but put it near the end of your bed. Put your workout clothes right on that so that you would literally have to push the chair out of the way to not put on your workout clothes. So that's the nice thing. You can get out of bed, put on your workout clothes. You're already in your workout clothes. You've already done the hardest part, which is commit to doing that exercise. Then you can simply, brush your teeth, have a glass of water, whatever it is, get into your morning exercises for the day. Could be yoga, could be exercise, whatever it is. And then, of course, the feeling is you started your day right. You started your day moving towards your goals. And if you start your day, the beginning of your day, and you get that part right, and you're moving towards a growth-based mindset that is going to get you achieving your goals, you are going to feel so good about yourself to start the day, which is only going to lead to what? More momentum. More momentum is going to say, let me take another action that's going to lead me towards my goals. And I don't want to mess up by lunchtime. Okay, I'm going to have a good lunch. And it keeps going and going and going so that you are now a goal-oriented and goal-achieving machine, because that's what it's all about. But it's about getting the morning right. I'm huge on the morning. And it's also just about finding the habits that don't serve you. This doesn't mean that you're bad. It doesn't mean necessarily that the habits are bad. I know that we talk like this, but it's really, hey, these are things that you didn't even know that you created. They just happened subconsciously or unconsciously, and they happened over time. So the nice thing is that if we begin to become more self-aware, we figure out what our triggers or cues are, then we know the habit, the action, the routine that we're doing, we can know how to break that, because at the end, we're just looking for a feeling. So we can replace the habit to get the same feeling. We can replace the action, get that feeling that we want, that we're truly after, because that's what it's all about. So again, knowledge, or I should say applied knowledge, is power. Now that you know this, you can go out and create new habits. You're able to break old habits, and you'll be living that much happier and healthier of a life, in my opinion. So hopefully this has been helpful. Thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And of course, if this podcast was helpful, please do feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could serve. Thank you so much for just tuning into the show. And before you go, I want to let you know about an amazing offer happening over at equilibriumnutrition.com right now. Did you know, this is so important, but did you know that 80% of all people are magnesium deficient? That means they are not getting enough magnesium in order to combat the stresses of daily life, in order to help balance calcium, in order to keep those arteries healthy and safe, to help with healthy levels of inflammation, healthy levels of blood pressure, healthy levels of cardiovascular health, healthy levels of, I would say, tension in the head, since magnesium is one of those particular minerals needed to help with migraines and headaches and allergies and fatigue. It boosts performance. It boosts cognitive-based ability and memory. It can help with skin-based issues. It can help with blood sugar regulation. It helps with mood. So when we look at magnesium magnesium, there is a reason why it is one of the top dozen products that most functional medicine doctors use with their wellness clients or patients. It made the top list and makes the top list every single year, and that's because magnesium helps every other nutrient in the body essentially work better. It's used in over 300 different processes. So if you want to improve your levels of vitamin D, well, you need magnesium. If you want to help your absorption of calcium so it doesn't get stuck just in the lining and harden the arteries, you want magnesium to get it where it's supposed to go, whether it be the bones, the muscles, etc. This is why magnesium is one of the best-selling and most popular products over at equilibriumnutrition.com. We use it in our health practice, and most people, again, are deficient. Yes, you can absolutely run a minerals and metals test. You can find that lab over at equilibriumnutrition.com as well. But by using 200 to 300 milligrams, just even at a smaller part. Again, we can't give you exact recommendations, but that's typical for most people. It's as simple as taking 2 to 3 capsules at dinner and allowing that sympathetic nervous system to start to calm, to give the body a greater sense of relaxation, to help with deeper sleep. So right now, going on over at equilibriumnutrition.com, we're offering you 20% off for life. All subscriptions are 20% off for life. This is absolutely the largest discount we've ever given because we do believe this is a product that the majority of people should be using. Head on over to equilibriumnutrition.com while this offer is valid and supplies last. Take care, everyone.